Complexity Unraveled. It's a podcast production who are grappling with real operations challenges.
Partially because people don't really think about operations as a thing when they're first starting. They just want to figure out how to get that first customer, and they're not thinking about what the process is to do that.
For those joining us for the first time, we're a podcast production highlighting operations leaders across different sized companies and industries who are grappling with real operations challenges, be it value creation, efficiency, scaling, or optimizing what's already working. Our guests have solved and still tackling other operational efficiency concerns due to issues such as rapid scaling, poor post-merger integrations, or leadership failure to make strategic operational or technology shifts on time. As we look ahead, we want to empower our listeners to be better prepared for the future. What's done is done, but how do we unravel this complexity going forward? So, what's in store for you today? Today, we're talking about how to get profitable and stay profitable, managing growth and efficiency, monitoring and maintaining the health of your business. Many business owners are in that place. Our guest, Micah Logan of Logan Companies, recently spoke at the Boston Small Business Expo, and I believe today's conversation will be relevant for a diverse group of leaders. Welcome, Micah, to the Complexity Unraveled podcast.
Hey, Kinga, thanks for having me.
I met Micah Logan in 2023 on a Slack business forum on which we're both members. We interacted here and there, but never actually did have, any one-on-one personal conversation. And then earlier this year, we ended up at a breakfast, and I was sitting quite close to him. I wasn't talking to him, I was sitting close to him, and I was just hearing one intriguing conversation after another. So I was doing a little bit of ear hustling, and I'm trying to talk to 3 and 4 other people. And I said, you know what, I have to talk to him because he really seemed to have great insight in how to run a business and how to guide business leaders, not only in terms of goals and targets, but in how to manage their business on a day-to-day basis and keep a pulse on how efficiently their business is running. So, Micah, today, I just want to jump right in, if
Sure.
it's okay with you. And the first thing is, how do you get profitable? Because I know this is what you talk about all the time. Like, businesses are out there, they're trying to figure out, how do I stay afloat? There's a lot of conversation about sales. And we know that's right. But how do you actually figure out how to get profitable?
I do want to answer that, but I'm going to just step back for a minute and just say that Kango was sitting close enough to eat off my plate. Even if she didn't, she was still sitting close enough to eat off my plate. And she did a unique job of paying keen attention to the person that she was looking at while also airjacking my conversation with the person I was sitting next to. So that's all. Fact check. That's true.
Thank you.
So it's a good question. And how do you get and stay profitable is a simple question, but it has a broad, obviously, implication, which is that to get profitable assumes that you have the ability to actually generate profits in a way that you can remain profitable. And what I find oftentimes when I work with businesses, SMBs specifically, is that they don't even understand necessarily themselves and their ideal client profile. It's usually the basic stuff. And it's funny because I submitted to present at a conference down in Florida, and you can see the reviewers' notes about what they thought about the presentation. Some of them had heard about me, some of them had not. Some of them thought it was a great topic. Because I give this conversation about what I call stupid mistakes that business owners make, the 6 stupid mistakes that business owners make. Stupid is an acronym for the basket of mistakes that I've noticed that business owners make. And some of them said, yeah, like this presentation will be great if we could add a little bit more complexity, make it a little bit more advanced. And I was thinking to myself, but it's not more advanced or complex than what I'm saying. And part of the issue is that there's so many people out there with these MBAs, with these finance degrees.
Like me? Are you talking about me?
Talking about everyone except for Kinga. And
all right, thank you.
They go into companies and they think it's more complex than it really is. And oftentimes it comes down to basic meeting a client where they are.
Yes.
Pursuing the job to be done for a client. Once the client decides to do business with you, You make that process as seamless as possible. Then on the service side or the product side, you make it as easy for your company, for employees. So we just talked about the customer. Let's talk about the employees. You make it as easy for your employees to do their job as physically or humanly possible. And that level of efficiency on both sides, and I'm simplifying this, of course, because there's a lot to it, is what creates profit.
I'm going to ask you to pause there because you talked about a few things. You talked about the knowing your customer, knowing what they need, and then going into your customer and then coming back to your organization and making sure your employees could deliver that efficiently or as simply as possible. And then you also talked about complexity. So this is complexity unraveled. So we want everything to be very simple here. So figuring out your customer or knowing who your customer is, what do you think is so hard about knowing who your customer is? And I think all of us can raise our hands and say, hey, you know what? There's been a time or two when I wasn't sure who I was selling to. How do you simplify that? How do you identify your customer?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I think that you identify your customer by knowing who you are. It's just like getting married, right? You marry a person who's good for you because you know what you need individually. If you're a company who understands who you are and what you actually provide the marketplace, then it's easier to find a customer who fits that ideal client profile. What you need to do is you need to take a sample of one individual, and many people call it an avatar, and you build this avatar of your ideal client profile. Most people think that they know what that is. Most people don't know what it is because they think it's just someone who buys from them. It's not an individual who buys from you one time. It's the person who repeatedly buys from you and then gives you feedback about what they do and do not like about your business. That is your ideal client profile. Why? Because people who actually like doing business with you are going to tell you how they think you can improve, how they think you can get better, and what they don't like about what you started doing. People who are not engaged with your company don't do that. They just kind of buy from you, and then if it's good or great or you performed, it's fine. But if you didn't perform, they never really actually engage with you again, and you never hear from them again. So what you need to do is you need to identify who it is that is singing your praises in your business, and then figure out who that person is, where they buy, where they find companies like yours, where they actually spend money to solve the problems that your company actually solves, and how it is that you can invite them, attract them if they're already being serviced by someone else or using products of someone else to your service or product-based business. It has nothing to do with anything more than understanding who you are as a company and what you offer. And like Apple did, you let your customers drive that feedback.
So, I mean, you're talking about feedback here. So yes, there's those who there's two aspects of feedback here. There's those who walk off into the sunset and you never get their feedback. And in my mind, I think what happens to a lot of companies is then we start to hypothesize and assume why they walked away and what they didn't want. And then I think a lot of companies then start thinking about, how can I court those guys back? And maybe there are ways you can court them back, and maybe some of them do need to come back. I don't know about that answer. But here you're talking about getting your own customers to also give you feedback and engaging them. But in this world where there's so much noise right now, especially with everybody being digitally connected and everybody wanting to have a conversation with everybody else, every company wants all their customers to talk to them. And these customers have like 100 other businesses that also want to talk to them. How can you get that feedback in the reality of today's world?
Believe it or not, you just have to ask. If I never ask you how dinner was when I cooked it to you, how will I know unless you actually tell me, right? Sometimes you invite people over, they say, hey, thank you for dinner. I appreciate it, right? It's so nice of you to have me over to your house. And you say, well, I'm glad you came over. I'm glad that you were able to spend some time with me. But never in that conversation did you actually talk about the meal itself. You talked about the fact that they came over, they thanked you for feeding them, you appreciated their company, but never in that conversation did you discuss the quality of what they ate for dinner. So then how do you do that? Well, you have to actually create a feedback loop with those people to see or to engage them right off the bat. when they finish consuming your product, using your product, or engaging in service, you need to say to them by either automation or directly through customer account representatives, or just if you're a very small business, a micro enterprise, then just by calling them up yourself and just saying, well, listen, I appreciate you coming for dinner. Tell me what you liked about the dinner and tell me what you didn't like about the dinner. Don't worry. I'm not averse to poor feedback. Just let me know because I want to get
I'll
better.
only be crying for 2 weeks.
That's right. And actually, when you actually add that little tidbit like you did at the end, you make it a little humorous. We enjoy tearful joy. So if we cry because you say it's not that great, it's not the best you had, then we're gonna, and we know why, then we can make it better. But you have to ask. Most businesses that I actually consult or coach do not ask. It's literally that simple. Majority, probably 90% don't ask.
Wow. Simple. No, I like that. That sounds simple. That's good. And then for those who walk away, you're saying just let them walk away into the sunset, or because we'll never know, right? We don't know who they are. They never interacted. They never bought, or maybe they never came back.
Well, those who walk away, well, you have two options. I would ask them why they walked away and never re-engaged. But you should have engaged them in some form of quote exit interview using the NPS. No, I know that people debate NPS. NPS is a solid
Yes.
is a solid way to measure customer loyalty and retention because of its simplicity. Now you can debate the merits of whether or not you believe that is how highly effective it is, but it really just gives you a gauge. And aren't KPIs nothing more than just a gauge, generally speaking, to figure out kind of where you are in a snapshot in time. So that's kind of what you want to know. And I can give you a quick story about this. So I own a few companies. One of them is a construction firm. And one of the things is we're trying to disrupt the construction industry through one way, which is customer engagement. Actually, believe it or not, when you do what you're saying, you get construction, people will sing your praise. Who knew, right? It's because the industry is so full with construction companies that don't do what they're going to say. So we completed a project for a customer. At the end, we send out an NPS survey. NPS, if you're not familiar with it, I'll go over briefly. It's called Net Promoter Score.
Yes.
Net Promoter Score gives you a scale of 1 to 10. It asks one question. Scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend your friend or colleague to our business? It's that simple. Yes. And it's broken into 3 sections that tell you kind of whether the people who do business with you are going to be passives, which means that they may or may not engage with you, detractors, which means that they're definitely not going to engage with you, or they're going to be promoters who are definitely going to engage with you in the future. So we got a 0 on the Net Promoter Score.
Oh, wow.
So we called the customer and we asked why. It's a very simple question. It was one word. It was a one-word phone call. Hey, we noticed that you put a 0. Why? And guess what happened? They communicated. They said to us, oh, well, we were concerned about these 3 things. And so we said to them, well, we never heard back from you after we completed the final walkthrough with you, by the way, that those 3 things were a problem.
Yes, that's a great story. And I know, it's a great story. And I think, yes. And I think maybe for the larger companies, the challenge does become, because I worked for, in this New England area, Stop and Shop. Mm-hmm. At that time, it was a $17 billion company. We turned into a whole $23 billion company. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there's just so much information, right? And I think the challenge that you have sometimes in a larger company like that is there's so many customers. Sometimes you get so much feedback, and sometimes you don't even know how to, and I'm not saying they didn't, but I say sometimes it's hard to even figure out where to begin to act on it, because there's so much you can begin to do. But that is a great example, because if maybe there's 3 or 4 core areas or key value drivers in your business, you can focus, just say, on those 3 measures, and you don't have to necessarily try to cover everything else.
It's funny you mentioned Stop and Shop. You know what I do sometimes? Sometimes I'll be in like a grocery store and I'll just stand there for a second and I'll put my head down and I'll listen, and I hear the cash register beeping. And in my head, I'm just thinking, what a great business this is.
It is.
Every 2 seconds, there's a beep. That's money. Every 2 seconds. I want to build a business like that, where it's beeping every 2 seconds.
Can I tell a story? Because when I was sitting there working one afternoon, and I know we're gonna get back to efficiency in a second, I
Mhm.
realized it's an amazing business, and you're right, it's beeping every second. It's a necessity. People need to eat, and if you keep delivering good service, they'll keep coming back. But the other thing is it really builds communities. It really, if you think about the employment structure, and even if you think of the longevity of the companies and what they even contribute, a company like Stop and Shop and what it contributes to what it has contributed to the economy of Massachusetts. That's huge. It's generational, and it's
Mhm.
really part of the fabric of the development of the state of Massachusetts and all the other states where it operates. And I'll stop right there. And so that was my epiphany that, you know what? Businesses like this are so essential, and growing businesses like that is even more important. But
100%.
if we can switch over to efficiency, you talked about delivering the service in the best way as possible, or product, whatever it is. What are you looking at? What should a leader of a business look at on a day-to-day basis, right? Because a lot of times we're sitting down. Now, I'm in the world where a lot of, I work as a fractional COO and do
Mhm.
PMO work. So I'm in a world where a lot of times I'm talking to folks, everybody seems to be in SaaS software. It's like the coolest thing to be in, right? And so
Until
that's most of
2023, 2024.
yeah, that's what yeah, right? So most of the people I talk to are saying, I did SaaS this, I did SaaS that, but
Mhm.
there's so many other businesses out there. And
Sure.
how are we managing efficiently? How do you keep a pulse on a business from a day to day, and watching that profitability, making sure you're staying profitable in your everyday day-to-day decision making?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I created a framework called the Altitude Framework. Altitude Framework that I created is phase 2 of my small business mastery framework overall. And what it is, it's, to me, the thing that works the best is, there's a whole kind of lean management practice in operations about ruthless efficiency metrics and all this other stuff, dashboards, data viz, all these data metrics and data viz. To me, the thing that works the best for employees, whether the company is large or small, are scorecards. They just simply do. Because at the end of the day, we respond better to games. When you gamify work for people and you hold them accountable based off of those efforts, the initiatives that go into raising the score, and you reward them based off of how highly they score, whether you're a Fortune 500 company or whether you're SMV, then you're going to get the best out of your employees. At the end of the day, a company has to be serious about delivering for their customers and their brand promise, and they have to measure and weigh everything in their business. To me, scorecards are the tool to use because they do two things for you. They are adaptable to the changes
Mm-hmm.
of the market, to the clients, and to the business structure. What happened from Q1 to Q2, you can adapt the scorecards and you can try to push for more, a high level of close rate if you're in sales, a high level of efficiency. And so they're adaptable. So you can, and then they can go across every single department. It doesn't matter if it's
Yes.
accounting. It doesn't matter if it is production. It doesn't matter if it's compliance. It doesn't matter if it's IP and legal. It doesn't matter if it is sales or marketing. Scorecards work for every single department in the company, even the C-suite. So your OKRs and your KPIs drive the scorecards, right? So here's how you do it. Humans need both a hard and a soft system to function in the workplace, regardless of what we think about, pushing extra hard our employees to grind it out, or whether we think we want to go to the opposite end, which is give them a chef in the office and all a massage therapist. People need to be held accountable both with hard and soft systems. In my opinion, the hard systems are the KPIs and the OKRs. Executive
Sure.
management want to see a specific outcome for the quarter or for the year. So the executive team should set their OKRs for the year, for the 12 months cycle that's coming up. Then
Sure.
the managers should take those OKRs, divide them into quarters, and then the line producers, supervisors, and staff should take those quarterly metrics and divide them into weekly tasks. To me, is and then what the manager does is the manager then uses a scorecard based off of those OKRs and KPIs because they know what they need to achieve.
No. probably shift now, if that's okay with you, to thinking about cost and capital, because we've talked about revenue, we've talked about delivering the service, and a little bit of measurement. We kind of jumped into that one through the back door here, but cost and capital in managing profitability. How is the business leader looking at that? How are they adjusting that? How are they planning for that? Making decisions around that?
Sure. So when I think about cost and capital, it's always highest and best use. I like zero-based thinking. And if you're not familiar with zero-based thinking, it kind of goes into zero. It's a takeoff from zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting means, if y'all don't know and you're in here, it just simply means every year or every quarter, whatever your budget cycle is that you zero out your budget to zero. And then you justify everything that goes into that budget. And so every time you have to create the budget, you zero it out and you justify every expense. And then you run it through a filter. Is it the highest and best use for the company for these items to be in our budget, right? Do they make our business better or do they make our business worse? Zero-based thinking as an executive or as a manager or as a fractional is making things simpler in the company. It's value by subtraction, not value by addition, more often than not, where you have to go back to basics. You analyze where your client is or your company is, and then you say, is this the best and highest use of this idea, my staff's time, the budget, resources, capital allocation, or are there other pressing things that also need to go into this quarter's actions, this month's actions, this week's actions? And you should justify your time. Every bit of time in a company should be justified. Listen, there are justifications for doing things that are less business oriented with your employees, like having team time, right? There are justifications for that stuff. So it doesn't mean that stuff is not justified. It doesn't mean that this is a hard, rational, ruthlessly logical thing that excludes things like the software of running a company, which is employee morale, right? All that stuff is necessary. But zero-based thinking is the function that you have to use to when it comes to cost and capital allocation. Should I apply my cost here? I have $1 to spend. Okay, break it down to $1. People think so crazily complex, right? I can say I have $100 million to spend. Listen, I have $1 to spend. If I spend my dollar here, I can't spend it there. Which one on a scale gives me the best ROI for this dollar, either actually or may contribute to revenue or contribute to my employees that contribute to revenue or will contribute to people who support revenue? Like, I have $1. It's only $1 and I have to choose where it goes. Where's the best and highest use for that dollar?
And that's kind of like the real reality in a small business, right? I have $500. I only have $1,000. I only have $2,000.
Right.
Or maybe it's I only have, $100,000 to achieve everything that I need this year from January to December. So you're absolutely correct.
Well,
The only last thing I would ask you is if you could say something about AI, profitability, staying profitable in 1 minute. And that's just because everybody wants to hear about AI. Doesn't matter what you have to say, but
yeah, I would say don't fight AI. If you're a business owner, fractional executive, or if you're a business leader, you're in the C-suite, don't fight it, because it's going to give you what you want. It's going to give you the efficiency. AI is literally creating this. It's multiplying a single person. It is creating teams of people for one person, which is like the whole recent 100 humans fight one gorilla kind of thing that's going on right now on social media. I'm not sure if you all heard it, but that's what AI is. AI is giving you teams of teams. It's giving you marketing help. It's giving you social media help. It's giving you marketing analytics help. It's giving you access to the brains of the people you can't afford to hire for your business, and is providing it as a whole team function. If you are in business, you need to, it's not just about not being afraid of it. I'll go even further and say that you should try to figure out what parts of your business that are not customer facing. I actually am kind of old school in the customer facing parts of business. I think that if you can maintain the old school functions of human interaction to human interactions, and you can buttress that human interaction with AI support and to give them the team behind the human interaction, so you don't need a team of people, you're going to win 100 ways to Sunday. If you have not adopted AI in your firm to some degree in process or thinking or strategic work, or even an implementation to some degree, I think you're missing the boat. It's the future. It's not going away. And AI is only getting smarter. Profitability.
Great.
If you want to stay profitable, you got to do like two simple things. You have to deliver on your promise. You have to be efficient with how you deliver on that promise. I mean, frankly, that's it. I mean, you've been a product manager, so you know that managing products, getting the right product out there in a timely way is about managing that entire process, right? QA, the conversations, the research, the surveys, all that stuff is just to ensure that you're delivering the right product to the marketplace, to make sure that when a client and customer gets that product, they're going to take a look at it and they're going to say, this is exactly what I want. And how do you do it? You dial in the efficiency as much as you can on that back end. When it's delivered to the customer, stay customer facing. Let them be the one that actually remains customer facing.
Thank you. This has been a fascinating conversation. Thank you again, Micah Logan of the Logan Companies. And you're on LinkedIn. Anywhere else that you can be found?
I am. I am on LinkedIn. I'm on YouTube. Right, I have my own podcast called The Common Sense Show. As you can tell from my explanations, I'm a very kind of common sense guy. Although sense is spelled CENTS. And
awesome. Thank you again for joining us here on Complexity Unraveled. And to our listeners, thank you very much. And you have a wonderful day. What is Complexity Unraveled? It's a podcast production who are grappling with real operations challenges.
Partially because people don't really think about operations as a thing when they're first starting. They just want to figure out how to get that first customer, and they're not thinking about what the process is to do that.